I'm Gavin. I had my stroke when I was 51, 3 years ago next week actually. Yeah, I was quite shocked when I had it really, because I was quite a fit 50-year-old and I wasn't really expecting anything like that. It was quite an interesting time, because I had it, I think it started probably, I had some twinges in my leg. I just come back from a big long cycle ride with my son, and I just had some twinges, and I felt that didn't feel right, but I thought, oh, maybe I just sat on the saddle wrong. And they went away. And next day I went to my parents, and they got me up a ladder and things like that. And then in the afternoon, it came back. So I drove bizarrely home with the kids on the back of the car, probably suffering from a stroke as I was driving around the M25, because I suddenly realised that actually something wasn't quite right. It was really hard to concentrate on staying in the lane. And anyway, so I made it home. That was the focus. I had to get home. I had to sort the kids out because they were going out. So I got them home. I thought, something's not right, but I'll go away. And it was a bit bizarre, because I got them and sent them out, and then I thought, I'll ring 111 and they'll tell me that it's nothing, it's nothing at all. And in any case, it can't be a stroke, because I'm an engineer. So I went, my aunt had a stroke 3 days before. So I went, statistically, there's no chance of it being a stroke, because, chance of a stroke, 2 strokes in the same family in a week, not going to happen. So I phoned 111 and they went, you're an idiot, you should have phoned 999, you're having a stroke. To put it bluntly, we've called an ambulance anyway. So I wasn't too bad. They got me to phone the kids. They weren't too far away and came back to me. My wife was unfortunately having a first weekend away for months at the time, so I didn't want to interrupt her weekend away. And yeah, so the ambulance came and they realised I was having a stroke. Got me to pack a bag, so I packed it overnight, because it was only going to be overnight. Walked out to the ambulance and didn't get home for 7 weeks. It's completely changed the way I think about things, really. You appreciate life a lot more when you realised how close it was. I mean, I didn't think too much about these things, and certainly, I thought my risk was fairly low. I mean, I remember actually having a fit test at 50, and I remember my chances of stroke were less than 4%, But that doesn't mean, as I know now, that's not no percent. It can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter how fit you are. There's no known cause for mine. I mean, we explored a few things. I'd fallen off my mountain bike 2 weeks before, and they thought maybe it was a clot in my carotid artery that moved into my brain. But yeah, it's got to the point where I'm happy. I've recovered really well. Got a lot of tone still in my body, but actually, if I'm in normal life and doing normal things, no one really knows. But it's always there. It's the extra energy that anything takes. For me, it's not so much the fatigue that a lot of people have to overcome. It's the physical fatigue that I have to deal with, because my muscles work twice as hard to do what I need to do. Well, I remember being in hospital. When I went first into hospital, I walked in. I was having a stroke, but I walked in, and I went through the A&E, and they acknowledged I was having a stroke and sent me for a CT scan really quickly. Unfortunately, because of the stroke was in the brainstem, they didn't pick it up. We can't pick it up in the CT. And I was put up onto the acute it wasn't acute stroke ward because that wasn't open that night. It was just the one-off ITU. And I was lying there and I started stumbling and falling. And by the next morning, I was left lying there, unable to move at all down the whole right-hand side. And it was just weird how quickly that came on. You know, I'd had discussions with the stroke consultant, and we were talking about going back to work after 2 or 3 months. It was a mild stroke, and I got away with it, and then suddenly it double whammied me in hospital. But I remember sitting up when the consultant came round, and we were after I'd had the MRI scan, and I kind of explained. I said, "Oh, we found the stroke. You've had it in the brainstem." And I went, "Oh, well, that's good. At least I haven't lost any of my cognitive abilities. You know, it's fine." And they went, "Well, there might be some difficulties in mobility." And I went, "Oh, it's all right. I can learn to walk again." And I think it was the fact that I was completely ignorant of what my journey might be that kind of gave me the energy to keep moving on. I'd been lucky enough to represent Britain age group in triathlon when I was 50 in the World Championships. So I kind of asked my wife to bring my GP kit into hospital, really, because I wanted to put the same energy into recovery as I put into getting on that start line. So that was how I did it. In some ways, it does. It really focuses you on your, you know, that some things need to be in place. I remember one of the things that we resolved straight away was powers of attorney between me and my wife, because we realised how bad it could have gone, and wills and things like that. It's all the things you put off, and it's realising that actually you need to live a bit more in the here, not in what might be in the future. But in other ways it hasn't, because you kind of get, as you start to recover and get more engaged in real life, you forget about a stroke until but it's always there. It's always there. That's the extra effort. It's the realisation that I've got to keep fighting. I can't, you know, I know, no matter how well I've recovered, I've got to keep using it. I've got to keep moving it forward. Otherwise, you go backwards. So the biggest thing that I did is I wanted to get back into triathlon, and it was less than a year after I'd had the stroke, and I'd already entered a triathlon that had been put off because of COVID. So I had an entry into this triathlon, and I kind of wanted to put something back into the rehab unit that looked after me. So I kind of said, "Oh, I'll do the triathlon. I'll get in there." And so I set about, you know, doing something and completing that triathlon. And the feeling as I crossed that line was immense. I mean, I've gone on. I'm carrying on doing that. It's still something I'm getting better at, but nothing's quite replicated that first one. You know, well, I suppose actually it felt pretty good. I competed and I'm doing para-tri now. That was you know, crossing the line and feeling and competing against other para-triathletes good. But yeah, that first triathlon back, beating a few able-bodied people was really good. It's a journey. It really is a journey, and it doesn't ever stop. I had a really good OT actually who worked me in the hospital, and they always encouraged me to look for the goals and the next goal and the next goal. But what she did say was the moment you stop looking for goals, that's when you stop recovering. I found different strokes when I was in hospital. There's only so long you can talk to friends and family on the phone. I was kind of Googling and looking and I came across the website, and then realised it was a Facebook group, and found the Facebook group and found a fantastic group of people who were so encouraging, and we were able to share our achievements, our problems, in a really safe environment, and that's what I've really found. I've been involved in some of the videos and the virtual Zoom meetings. That's been good, but the community around the Facebook group has been it was certainly a really, really important part of my life, particularly in those first few months. It's about people who get it, who are not old. You know, when you're in the rehab unit, I was surrounded. Unfortunately, it was a half Alzheimer's unit and a half stroke. So I was the youngest by 30 years probably in that unit, and my needs, what I needed as someone who's hopefully relatively young, is so different from what a traditional, or is thought to be the traditional stroke survivor, that's what Different Strokes gives me. It's that community of people that know what I'm going through. I think it's bizarre. I feel I've got more friends on the Facebook side. We're at the conference here today, and it's been so great to actually meet them. You know, it's like people, you only see their photographs, and there are other people that I've actually met up outside. I went wild swimming down in Bournemouth. I met Paul Lambert, and that was fantastic. And it's just great to actually see people and feel that community. But it's amazing how much online you can feel a community. There are people that, you know, I really feel for and really care for, but I've never met. And that's it. You don't need to be physically know someone to know someone. So I think there was two things that really struck my recovery. So there was a book by an American NFL, I can't remember his name, but there was and it was his recovery through a PFO and how he got back to being in the NFL. That kind of really drove me. And then the other one, there was a magazine piece because Michael Johnson, the 200-meter runner, he had a stroke, same age as me, literally the year before me. And so I went, well, he's a world champion. I'll see if I can beat him and get back and running a lot better than him. Didn't quite succeed that because I ended up with some spasticity and tone, which I'm working through. But you know, I feel I'm there. I acknowledge that how you recover and how things come back is, to a certain extent, luck. You can't tell. There's no right or wrong. But the one thing I would say is that actually you've got to push your body and really keep pushing it, because nothing happens without an effort. You know, I was, as I said, I was lucky. I did not have a lot of the fatigue that a lot of people have to deal with. I did have some of it in the hospital, but I would work and I would work and I would work. I really listened to everything that all the physiotherapists were telling me, and then asked how I could make it better, how I could keep developing it. So it's that drive to constantly improve. I remember reading a book when I was in hospital. It was about stroke recovery, and it kind of likened that to preparing to be an Olympic athlete. I think the hard part for a lot of people is nobody understands the effort, and I don't. I'm not that good to become a real elite athlete. The amount of power, attention that needs to be put into it. I think it's too easy to not appreciate that and not put the effort in. That's not to say people aren't trying. People are trying. They just don't actually know how they've got to keep pushing, and then you might see nothing for it. I remember waiting for my hand to come back, and I was lucky. I was allowed to use the mirror box after hours in the rehab unit, and I would sit there for maybe 2 or 3 hours looking at the mirror and willing it to move, and that took 3 or 4 weeks before I even saw a glimmer in my hand. And I know that actually I probably put, if you look and I'd only done it with a physiotherapist, it would have been months before that might have happened. So I think the one thing is your rehab needs to be your own. It's your own responsibility. No one's going to give much as we like to have a magic wand waved, no one is actually going to help you rehab other than yourself. And you might be lucky, you might get really good movement or mobility back, or it might take a very long time, but it's still the same effort you're going to have to put in.
We're Different Strokes, a charity supporting working age and younger stroke survivors across the UK. Don't forget to like and give us a follow to see more videos like this.